We're live with the amazing Dr. Dena. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me, Dena. Hi.
Hey.
Dena has been on her course launch journey for just over a year now, I would say.
Yeah.
And Dena and I have been working together, and I wanted to chat to her today about her journey, her motivation, her success, and her experience. So thank you so much for bright and early on Monday morning coming to chat about your course launch. But I want to kick off with talking a little bit about how your motivation for starting this business is perhaps different than some. You know, some people get into course launching because they are interested in time freedom and freeing up their time and making an asset and selling it. Some people get allured by the idea that eventually you can make a lot of money, but you are out to make an impact and reach people. So tell us a little bit about your why and why you started and how it's going.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Tamron. It's lovely to be here, and I've loved working with you. You know, I worked in healthcare my whole life, and towards the later part of my career, I started being really passionate about change and changing healthcare. And that was really because there's so many things we need to do to create accessibility, to create better healthcare for ourselves and for others. And so, you know, that's what I focused my career on. And as I moved forward, I just wanted to reach more people to help them become change leaders. Because obviously, as an individual, as a single person, you can only make so much impact yourself. But if we can start to teach other people to create that impact, then I knew that would exponentially change how much of an impact I make. And so I remember actually, and you know, I love yoga as well, and I'm a yoga teacher, and my yoga teacher trainer said he was not here to teach yoga, he was here to teach teachers. And the reason for that is that there was this ability to create impact, that the more people that could teach yoga, the more he believed we would transform the world and create peace and well-being. Now, that's exactly where I sit in this process. It's like the more people I can support to become good change leaders, the more we will impact healthcare, and the more we'll create health and well-being and better systems for people to go to in the health system. And, you know, I also wanted to do that beyond the South African borders. So as I started going through my career and interacting across the world, I realized that there are so many people that are longing to make a difference, but they didn't know how. And they didn't have access to an easy way to do that and an easy way to learn how. And, you know, that's what inspired me to get started.
And boy, you've got started. You've been extremely focused, even though you've got a lot of other things going on, and the main work that you had before you and I started this journey together, you have been implementing consistently and diligently, and the fruit of that is evident. I mean, I haven't even looked at your latest figures on the platform that you chose to focus on, which is LinkedIn, but I remember within a short space of time, your followers was over 10,000. I don't know if you've got an updated figure on that. What's been going on there?
It's around about 12,000. And then I also branched into Instagram and Facebook, which I wasn't really ready for then. But, you know, as my journey progressed, I was like, okay, I realized that younger people love Instagram. And, you know, once you're there, you might as well be on Facebook. So, yeah, so, you know, that's also been a fantastic journey. But I'll say one more thing about that, Tamron, because, you know, as you know, when we started working together, that whole thing of creating an audience, understanding who your audience is. And then that's why I chose LinkedIn, because my audience are professionals, they're health professionals, they're leaders in healthcare. And that's where I went to call them in, you know, to say, come on, let's go and create change in the health system. But actually, I left corporate 5 years ago. And I've done work in the system for all those 5 years. But other than my research publications, which I kept going and I did, my visibility had really, it's actually becoming more and more invisible in the health system. And so starting this process has had this collateral value of keeping me in touch with the health system, keeping them informed of what I'm up to. And so not only have I had my online kind of work coming through and, I'm learning what's going on there and how to grow that, but I've also had the collateral impact of the industry knowing what I'm up to and people in the industry recognizing me and, making me part of their world again, which I had the risk of losing at that stage because I was so focused on bringing value to my clients and pouring my heart into that work and, generally over delivering in those fields. But it was creating me, it was making me more and more invisible. Yes, they were saying, wow, Dena, we love what you do. And, I was creating value and had a track record around that, but no one knew about my track record.
Yes. So that visibility. So I love that you mentioned there's been a process, because there is a deliberate process that one needs to follow to gain a following online and launch an online program. But I love that you mentioned that almost like a side effect of the goal being to launch an online program is this positioning as an expert again. Yeah. You were already an expert, but if nobody knows you're an expert, then actually, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it kind of thing.
Right.
So I just love that, I know you got invited to go speak at a conference and you even decided unless people are sending me on a plane ticket and paying for everything, I'm not going. And as an impact of all the posts and all the work that you're doing, you're back in that space where you're getting invitations that are funded, and that's an amazing side effect. But
yesterday I went to a health conference that, again, I'm getting this impact of people seeing me and recognizing me. Like, I know, I follow you on LinkedIn. Can I talk to you? And that creates a network that is so valuable. And it helps me understand what the needs are of my audience. So it's been amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. That the unexpected personal brand development that happens when you get up to an online program is beneficial if you continue to do other work.
Right.
But I want to talk about your experience of launching your program. When was your first one? I forget, like April, the beginning of this year, in April. Okay, so there is a very specific process that one follows, and you've got to have all the pieces in place, and it unfolds on a certain timeline. And as I've taught in the free workshops, it's an audience building phase, and you stayed in your audience building phase for quite a long time. You found your comfort there, built up your audience with the different ways that we were attracting people into your email list. And then when you moved into what I call the income phase, which is when you monetize that, you run a free event and you ask people to enroll in your pilot program the very first time. That was one roller coaster of an experience, but it was a very successful experience. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, the audience building phase really helped me get clarity about myself and my voice.
Absolutely.
That's like, when you start writing to your audience, when you start engaging them and they reply and they share or they like something, and then you get, you start to understand who they are. And also, I can't explain the value of being clear yourself, what that brings, what you stand for and what your story is. It really helps you bring that. And for me, that period, the reason it was a bit longer is because I like a lot of other people, you get through this, like maybe I'm not ready, maybe I'm not, But actually doing that phase starts you to, it helps me, it helped me get ready. Not
Absolutely.
only did
And
it build my audience, it created
y-
a new me. It actually created
yes,
my online presence, that
absolutely.
I
And
didn't go
you
ahead.
didn't even know you had. Yeah, like
Yes, exactly.
I remember you noticing that the way you were interacting with colleagues and the way you were being in the world with your new online business owner version started to be different. And I love
Right.
that you picked that up, because and it's the reason that I choose the word journey. And my
Yeah.
program that's open for enrollment, it's got the word safari in it, because the origin of the word safari in Swahili means to journey. And that you mentioned that personal growth journey as you start to build your own audience is so on
Yeah.
point. And it's
But
not the
also
kind thing
having
you
a
can.
coach. Yeah. But also having a coach, it's like when you say safari, I think of the kind of safari where you drive around on your own and you look for stuff. Okay. And then
Yes,
one
yes.
where you actually have someone who is an expert who's saying, look over there, there's this and there's that. I mean, I recently went on a nature safari in Kruitbos in the Western Cape, which has got these
Yes.
indigenous amazing fynbos. And the woman on the vehicle was telling us stories that I had not, it just enriches your whole experience. So, I mean, I think that even that launch phase was, the sort of nurture phase was an important part of having a coach that is not only giving you the tools and skills, but also standing with you as you go through your uncertainty and your questions and your like wondering. And it's a new world, so it's good to have somebody actually showing you what's happening and also kind of cheering you and picking you up when you get zero comments or whatever.
Yes,
It's
sure,
good.
sure.
It's like
Because
it's
that's bound to
new.
happen. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Nobody launches their first program or puts out their first
Mm,
post with an existing audience. So
yeah.
that experience that you have to go through, and I love that game ranger analogy you just made. I mean, a self-drive safari where you're like, are there
Yeah.
animals here? It's
Yes.
totally different than when the ranger's driving, it's the secret spots and
Exactly. That is
it gives you
exactly
that
it. So
that
yeah. But
magical
I mean,
time.
going into launch then, I mean, first of all, the decision to launch is, I don't know, I don't know if it's everybody, but it's always a tough decision to just go. I could have postponed it and postponed it and postponed it. But actually getting the support to just start, offer this free program, even though I have been teaching the stuff that I taught online, offline, in live sessions for 30 years. There was something about me that didn't want to do it online. And yet when I got online, as you know, I had 400 people sign up for my free accelerator program on change leadership. So, and I was amazed how many people showed up live. And the kinds of, I feel like I formed a whole new like circle of people that want to create a better health system. I felt like we connected, even though you may not have wanted to immediately come into, my paid program. But those people are still active. They're very active with me on social media, which they feel like friends and they feel like colleagues and fellow travelers in the world of change leadership, which you don't get when you're all isolated and only working for a few clients. I can't explain to you. It's like all over the world, there are people responding to something that I'm inviting you to look at and to share and to, well, that's like, such a beautiful gift to have. And it's a reward beyond the, which is of course in line with my vision. It's like, I want to create change leaders. If they never do a program with me, it's fine. If I just inspire them to become change leaders themselves, that is already a gift to me. The fact is, I still believe I can help people implement their change leadership programs quicker, more effectively, and in a way that serves them, their organizations, and the people they're aiming their change at. So I'm still thrilled that I'm doing that work. And I found elements that has never been named when I had to convey that. It's stuff I never did in the live programs. I'm actually building into this program now. Because I've seen, it's like later in my career, I can look back and name it more accurately.
Yes.
It's amazing.
So the process of having, you know, a moment ago before we went live, you talked about the value of just going through the motions to create the foundation. So obviously one of the side effects of a launch is that you have to build the assets to attract your audience, the thing that they are getting in exchange for the email address. Then you have to build out the assets for your free events. And that can feel like a lot the first time, but it's the same assets you use the next time you launch and the next time you launch and the next time you launch. Then you run the actual program and you build out that program week by week. That's a mistake a lot of people make. They think they make the program first and then they try and sell it. So you built that out week by week with a group of people. And I love how you just mentioned that there are things that you discovered in that process that you hadn't even named before. And it's why you have to actually just run through the full thing before you can even decide if it's going to work, how it's going to work, what it's going to be, what its names are, what's going to be inside. You just can't tell until you're there at the coalface reacting to who's in your program. And
you can't overemphasize the issue of that story about first I'm going to build my program, then I'm going to do it. But no, please don't do that. You know, it is, of course, you've got a framework. Of course, you know what your core teachings are, what it is you're bringing. But there's nothing that replaces the actual doing the program. And you know, when I launched, despite the fact that I am considered an expert in the industry, etc., I still didn't feel like I knew everything about what I was going to put together in this specific way. And I launched as a beta program, you know, at a really good price, because I was using that platform as a co-creative space. And I ended up having the most incredible group of people coming into my program, and you know, through that interaction, through what they said, through what I offered and how they responded, their program emerged as a co-created process. And I now have that collateral, and I have that experience to be able to talk about, to be able to offer to others, and to be able to keep improving as I take it through its next phase and its next phase.
Yes, absolutely. And the next launch is never as intense as the first one, because you are basically tweaking that whole set of assets that have already been created. I mean, even in the sessions that we've had in your gearing up for round 2, it's like, oh, we'll change this, we'll change that, which is nowhere near the same amount of thinking and work. Well,
you pull up the slides and you look at them and you go, no, I think I need to do this. I think I can, you know, that's kind of how you can operate. Yeah, I mean, as you know, Tamara, I'm busy launching in the middle of moving. So, you know, if I didn't have those assets, I wouldn't be able to do a second launch now. Now, you know, I would have said, no, I must wait till January.
Exactly.
But once you're in this mode, you know, I still see my next launch as an inquiry, you know, I'm a researcher as well. I'm a healthcare researcher, and I research implementation in healthcare, but I'm also now researching developing and forming an online business in the healthcare space. What does that actually mean, and how do we really do this in a way that you can, you know, afford the time, and in a way that is efficient for you, and also generates the revenue you need to keep going and to make the impact you want to make.
Yes. A moment ago, you talked about why you believe South Africans have a real opportunity in the online course-based space. And because
and I mean, I
it's
think
still,
yes, it's still so it's under occupied. It's not like you're going out into the world and there's into South African audiences and there's thousands of people competing with you. I mean, what I believe we're doing is helping South African professionals and people learn to use the online space to shift their paradigms and to get the opportunities and to build businesses. And, you know, if you think about the unemployment in our country, wow.
Yeah.
It's like, what an amazing opportunity to bring ideas, bring opportunities to people out in the South African context and to be teaching them how to do that.
Absolutely.
Like, wow.
That's exactly how I feel. I mean, one of my big whys is like, if I've seen this work, the amount of times I've seen it work, I've watched, obviously, you know, somebody else talked about South Africans having this crystal ball advantage, and then you can look at what's been happening in America and in Europe, and you can know that in a few years' time, it's going to work here. It's kind of just how our country has been in terms of trends. So if I've been watching big name American online business owners in Australia and Europe, and just waiting, you know, there's literally, I can count on two hands the number of huge South African online business owners. So there is an incredible opportunity for anyone. You don't have to be a fancy expert. You don't have to be as accomplished as you are in your offline career to be able to make an impact and an income. And I just think that's amazing. That's why I'm just trying to support South Africans specifically. But let's talk about income. There's options, right? There's totally DIY, which is what I'm supporting people to do in the Freedom Safari, is take off my templates and tools and self-implement. But there is an alternate option, which is the option you chose, which is right from the beginning, employ a team of people who are going to do a lot of the execution for you. Tell me why that was your choice.
This thing I want to say about DIY, you are not DIY really, because, you know, my old version of DIY was look up and see if you can use Google to find all these things, or you know, I think a packaged, if I was going to do it myself, there's only one way to do it, and then is sign up for this stuff and and follow the templates that you give me. Because, I mean, I've seen those templates, and to a large extent, we're also using those templates. You know, that's exactly the model that we are using. But what I was clear about is I want to spend my time on the things that I'm really good at, which is the content, which is the message that I'm bringing. And I'm not that, I mean, I can put my tech together, but I don't want to be spending my time doing that. And it's part of my own vision to, you know, do the work I love with people I love working with. And so I put my team behind me to support me to do my work. So I mean, I've written lots of academic articles, but I've never had to write for social media. So I mean, I hired a social media expert, a writer who, so I still write my own posts, but she helped me learn how to write them for the platforms of social media and how to make them much more accessible to a wider audience. And that was amazing. That's amazing. And again, making that investment has not just been an outsourcing, it's also been a growth process for me. I can write much better posts, you know, on my own with no input than I could write 12 months ago. And so mostly now I'm using her resources for very specific things, and I can carry on. But if I hadn't hired someone from the beginning, you know, I think I would have been okay, but I don't think I would have kind of got that level of work that I'm proud of. So that was the first. And then recognizing that on the tech perspective, there is stuff you need to do and you have to keep on top of and post and do. And actually for me to walk away on my launch and just send an email saying, here's the, what we need, and here's the description of the session to put in my profile. I think I wanted my program to have a very professional look. And that's why I needed to do that. It kind of had to reflect the level of expertise and the level of work that I bring. And if I was going to try and do that at the same time, it would just split me in 1,000 places. And I don't think I could have delivered my program at the level I did without that help. So, yeah, I think it was amazing. Of course, then having you behind me, helping me identify all the different factors, helping me understand what the heck a launch actually is, what the languaging has to be, and your famous one take revolution. In my launch, in the middle of my launch, I actually got that right.
You did.
To do a full video with no script. I mean, if you look at my early videos, you can see me go, hi, I'm Dena, Dr. Dena Punderberg, but in the launch, I got my flow and I could just talk. It was amazing.
Yes, it was amazing. You really did hit your stride, and it was so beautiful to see.
Well, I hope I hit there again.
You're going to start on your stride for your next round.
Exactly.
You never go back. Like, you're on a certain rung in the ladder. You can't slide down. It's not snakes and ladders, thankfully. But I love that you mentioned that again, because it's another reason why you just have to go through the process. You can't even know how to speak to your audience unless you actually show up and try to speak. And you might be a bit clunky on the first day, you might be clunky on the second day, but in your case, I think like it was the third or fourth day of a 10-day launch period where you just something happened, something clicked, the gates just opened, and the message just flowed, and
the examples were just coming up in my head. I could tell stories. This is amazing. And like those stories arose in the session. I could never have sat down and scripted them.
No. And that is such I love that we're talking about this, because I have seen, so I've supported a lot of people through launching, and there is definitely like a keystone moment where you've either got to walk through and let everything fall in place and feel uncomfortable till the point that it clicks in, or you choose not to and you stop and you give up. I've experienced somebody literally abandoning their launch, like at that point that you chose to walk through, because it's an intense experience, and it's not something you sign up for unless you're ready to move into a new level of how many people you're reaching, how your business operates, how you have to operate as a person, and the potential revenue that can result from there. So it's not something that you can just lie back and it passively happens to you. You've got to choose something better and more for yourself, and that comes with huge growth.
No, it does.
So from that perspective, watching you rise to that occasion and rise above it and have a very successful launch. I mean, for a first time launch, despite the fact that you chose to have a team, which obviously has a monthly overhead, you had a whole bunch of people sign up for a fairly high ticket program.
Yeah, I did. And I think I think if I look at the testimonials now and I look at what they like, the fact is, if you do your program well, they will get value. So like Tamron, for me, when I decided to take you on as wing woman, like I had no idea how much that investment would support me at the level of actually launching this product, developing it, getting it going, and having the kind of personal development and growth that I've experienced through that process. And I'm a big fan of coaches in general. I believe that anyone who wants to have a successful career should, at some stage of their lives, use a coach. And as you're going into the online world, don't try and do it on your own. I mean, I'm sure you can, but if you can, get a coach, get a tracker okay, in the front of your
Send
safari
them out.
vehicle.
Yes.
Honestly, that is so valuable to have. It's it's hard to actually explain how much value it actually brings. It's not the, oh, I sold my program for 5,000 Rand and I paid someone, X thousand Rand for what they actually, it's not just a money issue. It's an investment in your future, which is the same as education. We'll go out and we'll spend, 40,000 Rand on a business management course on how to launch social media businesses at an institute. But instead, we hesitate to spend 30,000 Rand over time on real coaching with people who really know how to do this and have done it themselves. That's like, it's a difference between learning from books, okay, or online now, and learning from someone who's actually been there and done it themselves.
Absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful point that you talked about, people investing a lot of money and taking even loans and all kinds of crazy things to get some sort of academic qualification or a diploma. Oftentimes, not always, taught by somebody who's only encountered it in theory.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they put it on their CV and it seems like, okay, well, now I've got this diploma, but you've never actually also done it.
Yes.
So exactly. For me, that's the difference. You can go and do, like in my work, you can go and do change management or project management. But in my program, you get to do change with my expert mentoring, with that process. And that's the same thing. Like you get to actually launch a product and a business.
Yeah.
And do it with someone who's done this, whatever, how many times have you done it again? 25, did we say? Yes, 25 launches in like, oh my gosh. Like, who's done this 25 times?
In the last 44 months.
Yes, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, that is quite a nutty statistic. I think I worked out it's an average of being in either my clients or my partners' launches on an average of every 8.8 weeks for the past 44 months. So I've literally seen it all. I have seen gigantic launches. There's been times where I've been sharing with you what somebody's launch is unfolding like. And I've seen a lot of absolute first-time beginner launches. Like I said, I've seen
like niche and
something so specific and how somebody reacts when they go through that journey. And all the while, it's always the exact same process and formula that unfolds. So I'd love to hear from you, now that you know the process and you know the formula and you're going into another version. What do you have to say to someone who's thinking about starting in the Freedom Safari and learning that process for themselves?
What do I have to say to them? I could just jump in. Stop thinking about it. Stop thinking that you'll do it another time, you'll do it later, that you're not ready, that you can't afford the investment. Those are all just holding you back from actually having an experience. Like if you have watched one single video, there is a little spark in you that wants to do this. And you're just like squishing it, If you, like along this little road, have been curious and that there's something calling you and you need to hear the call, because I've done online programs myself for years and there was always something in me that just thought, wow, this is the most incredible way to bring something into the world that can make a difference. And like the fact that I took so long to get into the space. I mean, as I said, I stopped working in corporate 5 years ago, and it's only a year ago that I did this. I spent 4 years, trying to get more business and bringing, and I always knew that I wanted to do this work, but I didn't have a how. I kept, I did other little courses, but I didn't, the difference was actually hiring someone to take me on this journey. And so I would say, just, listen to that voice, because that voice is like a voice of the future you could be.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Mm,
Well, I
mm.
can't wait to see how your impact compounds and magnifies and what your
Yeah.
program grows into. And it's such a pleasure to have been walking with you on your
Yeah.
journey. And thank you for sharing all of that wonderful insight of the experience with the people who are just a little bit behind you, that exact version of
They're
you
like,
thinking.
come on, join this train. It's going somewhere special and
Yes,
exotic. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Could I, should I? Is
But
it
the last
possible?
thing I wanted to say, like though, Tamron, is, you know, I was so afraid and so serious and so like, I had to control everything. But I think the other thing that you offered me was the lightness and the joy and the fun that if, you know, and I take myself seriously and I want to like do everything perfectly, just having someone who's going, hello, and the, you know, the encouragement and that it's actually shifted and I'm actually having so much more fun, even when I'm afraid, even when I'm still, oh gosh, what if this next launch is going to be a complete failure? Even when those voices are coming up for me, I'm still having fun, and it makes a difference having you there because you just have such a wonderful way of making things possible. It's really amazing. Thank you.
Such a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you for that.
Take care.
Thank you for spending time with us this morning. I'm going to set you free to go back and continue with your move.
With my move.
I mean, that's evidence. If you could be launching and moving at the same time, it means your assets are developed.
Super.
Have a wonderful day.
Much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Yes,
bye, everyone.
Yeah.